LifeFight with Jermaine Andre is a positive production of RareGem Productions. For previous episodes or to get new episode updates, subscribe to the LifeFight channel hosted on the Inspiration Network of OneRareGem.com. That's OneRaregem.com for the tools you need to take on your life fight. With U.S. Martial Arts Hall of Famer, two-time world champion, five-time U.S. champion, UFC vet, life coach, and author, Jermaine Andre. Visit JermaineAndre.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to LifeFight. I'm Jermaine Andre, and I'm here with my co-host, Rebecca Beck.
Hello, everyone.
And today, I'm going to talk a little bit about self-defense. Before I get into self-defense, I'd like to cover, actually, what we did last night in training, which has to do with self-defense. And as everyone probably knows, I teach Muay Thai kickboxing and mixed martial arts. And one of the things I pointed out last night was that MMA, or mixed martial arts, is kind of the true mixed martial arts is getting overshadowed by sport MMA fighting. And what the mixed martial arts MMA is really means someone who has learned or mastered many different martial arts and mixes them together so that they can have a fighting system for any kind of situation that they get into. Like you've got to have a striking art. So if you're on your feet and you have a self-defense situation, you need a grappling art. If you end up on the ground in a self-defense situation, you need a takedown and throw art and a takedown resistance art in case somebody grabs you and tries to throw you to the ground when you don't want to end up on the ground. And well, since sport MMA is so popular, and it's what's selling right now, which is great. It's beautiful. That's the supreme athletes as MMA fighters. I think that actual MMA for self-defense is being forgotten and is getting lost. So last night in class, what I did was I taught a rear hand strike. A rear hand strike comes from karate, comes from kung fu. I think taekwondo even has a rear hand strike somewhere in there. And it was kind of, it was funny because when I started teaching everybody in class, when I mentioned it, everybody's kind of like, everybody expects to learn how to throw a jab and a cross and a hook and a round kick and a knee and a takedown and a Kimura and an armbar. That's what they think MMA is what they see, on Bellator or the UFC or something like that. But when I introduced that, I said, this is a really, really good strike. This is like hitting somebody with a baseball bat. Plus, you do it from a different type of stance. Now, we're not starting with our fists up. Like we're in the ring or the cage, ding, ding, bell rings, we put our hands up. Most self-defense shouldn't start from that position. That's one of the things I pointed out. I said, look, if you're in a self-defense situation, the last thing you want to do is announce that you're going to fight. You're doing. And I said, I remember some people laughed because I stood in front of our Bob, our big dummy that's kind of like a guy, and I said, man, I don't want to fight. Boom! And then I hit him with the ridge hand. I heard everybody kind of laugh, and it shocked them. They were like, oh, wow, that's cool. And I'm kind of like, you didn't know that? But that's what happens.
Yeah, it was unusual to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And everybody gets so used to watching, MMA fighting on TV, and they think that, that's what you're supposed to do, get your hands up and come at them. But no, catch them off guard. Yeah. And the ridge hand strike, was the way it's thrown, and you're using the inside bone of almost like, right above your wrist. Where I also taught everyone that martial artists, karate people, they break bricks with that ridge hand strike. That's how good a strike that is. They will snap bricks in half, but that's because they condition that ridge hand strike, every day. Boom, 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 hitting brick walls, hitting, bags, hitting everything. So that gets so tough that they can use their hand. Right. Now, I explained to everybody, I said, you guys don't train like that every day. So I have to adjust the way you're going to use the ridge hand strike. So you're going to use, go up above your arm. You're going to use that arm. That's a bigger bone, a harder bone. Right. Hit somebody across their abdomen with that, across their solar plexus, across their rib cage. Yeah. Hit somebody in the throat with it, in their nose with it. And that's going to be a really, really hard hit.
Now, I think that's something really important that you always cover. You really adjust to modern day situations, because most of it, back in the day, that kind of stuff's just not realistic anymore. You really teach people what to do and how to adjust to everyday situations in the time that we're in right now. I think that's really important.
Yeah, for modern today. And that's, like you said, that's really important because even with, like you see with the round kick, people breaking their legs and stuff, out there, because everybody thinks the Muay Thai round kick is just something you can throw once you know how to throw it. But in Thailand, those kids start building their shins up for that when they're 5 years old, 4 years old, so now everybody in America sees, people winning with that round kick, just like me. I used to use that kick, but I started conditioning my shins and kicking brick walls with my shins and trees with my shins when I was a teenager, and then they see that and they learn how to the motion to throw it, and they say, cool, I got a round kick, and then they go throw it and hit something, and that tibia bone snaps in half.
Right.
But that's because it hasn't been conditioned. So, and people in America, we don't have the time to train like everybody did traditionally back in the day. Right now it's a super serious rat race, especially when the economy went. Now everybody has no time. So training and just trying to stay in shape and keep it from being overweight is number one. Let alone condition your knuckles or your fist so you can hit somebody in the skull with it.
Right.
So I have to adjust things for people of every day today, and even let them know that in a self-defense situation, when you hit somebody, you're probably going to hurt yourself.
Right.
It's just like even with I have some customers, they'll be hitting the bag with their bag gloves on. They'll say, sir, that's really starting to hurt my knuckles.
Right.
How's it hurt my knuckles? And it's so funny to hear somebody say that, because your knuckles, you're supposed to be able to break a brick. You should never feel pain on your knuckles. That is your number one weapon in self-defense. Is that's like the butt of an M16. How can you hit somebody with the butt of an M16? Say, I messed up the butt of my M16. That's supposed to be the hardest part of that gun. The knuckles is supposed to be the hardest part, but because people don't have time to develop their knuckles in that way,
right?
That's the kind of stuff you run into. Yeah, so then you have to, you need to wrap your hands, you need to pad your hands more, But I tell them, I say, look, you get in a self-defense situation, when you hit somebody, it's going to hurt your hand, it's going to hurt your arm, but it's going to hurt them worse if you hit them in the right spot. So you got to make sure you hit them in the right spot and still be ready for it to hurt. Don't think that you're going to get in a self-defense situation or a fight and you're just going to be throwing all these punches and hitting people and it's not going to hurt you. That's not the way it works.
Right. Which them training for fitness purposes and just to stay in tune with everyday training and keeping themselves in shape, that's still a good part of self-defense, because somebody being in shape and being in tune with that kind of training, even though they're not doing bare knuckle training, still a step above not being able to do that, right?
Well, it helps. Confidence is number one.
Right.
And if you're training, you keep yourself in shape, you're doing something, something active.
Right.
That helps to keep, the positive things flowing through your mind and through your body. That's going to be the first thing, because, it doesn't matter what you know if you don't have confidence. When it comes to self-defense situation, you have to be ready to first turn it on and do it. You got to believe that you can make it happen. And that's where it goes back to what I always say, the martial arts don't work. You have to make the martial arts work. Even with me, a situation happens with me, it doesn't matter what I know. What matters is what I believe I can use. And if I'm going to effectively try to use it. And I might hit somebody 10 times with something and it not work, and I got to go to something different, kick them in the knee or something different like that.
Yep.
But getting into self-defense, let's cover one of the things is I'd like to cover first is why a lot of people don't do self-defense and why they think they don't need to learn it. And I would say, in the day and age we live in, most people think they're not going to get attacked. They think they'll never have to deal with that type of situation. And it can be true. You may go through your life and never, ever have to defend yourself. But what if you do?
Right.
And a lot of times people think because of their personal accomplishments in life that they'll never get in a situation where they have to defend themselves. Like, you may have a good job, you may live in a great area, but you may, let's say you live in a nice low crime area, but that doesn't mean that you won't have to travel to a crime area.
Or even getting on a plane and going to a different city.
To a different country. Yeah. Anywhere you can go, you could end up moving your body into a high crime area.
Right.
And then plus, that doesn't stop people who are criminals from coming to your area too.
Right.
You never know who you're meeting. You never know who's coming to your house that's with somebody else.
Yeah.
You never know who sees you in the car. All those who's following you. All these things can happen that can put you in that type of situation. And then I think the other thing is people think that they have to be paranoid.
Yeah. That's a tough
to
one.
learn self-defense. It's almost like a lot of times people feel like, well, if I learn self-defense, that's going to make something happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm opening the door to that and I'm inviting that into my life. And that's not true.
Right.
You don't have to be a paranoid freak. You don't have to change your lifestyle. You're just making adjustments in the way you go through your lifestyle. And the truth of the matter is, when you just simple awareness, self-defense is about 99% awareness. For real, defending yourself. And I'm explain what self-defense is too, because a lot of people are confused on what it is. But it's 99% awareness. And if you, learn or take a good self-defense course, a self-awareness course, you've lowered your chances of an attack 99%.
Right.
Because you'll be able to see everything that's possibly coming. You can see people who are setting you up, because attacks happen, to certain people on a certain stage. You have to fit the criteria that attacker wants to come after.
Right.
And that's and you have to be in a certain area, usually that's secluded, and hidden from anybody seeing it or helping you. So when you do an awareness course, you know how to identify these areas and identify when you're fitting in these situations. It's almost impossible to get attacked.
So what type of person do you think they're going after?
They're usually going after somebody definitely looks weak. Somebody looks, unconfident. They're not looking for a fight. Whenever somebody's going to attack somebody, whether it's an assault, whether it's a robbery, a mugging, whatever it is, they're not looking for a fight. If that was the case, they'd be out there attacking police officers,
right.
Or big. You don't hear about, bodybuilders and muggers, big guys that look like they can fight, getting attacked.
Right.
Like I make a point to the women and women's self-defense all the time. I say, you don't hear about, female cops getting attacked. Even when the female cop's off duty, she doesn't have her badge and her gun on, but she's got her attitude
the way
on.
She carries herself.
Yeah, she's got her attitude on, and they can see that, and they're not going to attack her. You don't hear about female cops getting attacked, so it's still that confidence thing that you carry that people look for. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things also, what the attackers look for is people who aren't paying attention.
Yeah,
and that's really common nowadays, especially with cell phones. You'll see people walking and they're so buried into their phone they don't even see what's going on around them.
Right.
Next thing you know, you get smacked one, and they attack you because that phone's pulling in and taking all of your attention.
Right.
So that's kind of stuff attackers look for. They look for weak people. They look for unaware people.
Yeah.
People that aren't paying attention, because then that opens an attack. And like I say, that's something so simple that you can learn. Just look, when you park down, you go into a baseball game in the middle of the city and you parked at a parking garage. You know what I'm saying? And you happen to be one of the last people to leave. Put your phone in your pocket.
Right.
Pay attention.
Right.
Because you just making eye contact with somebody and say, hey, what's happening? That just destroyed their seclusion.
Right.
Which is, that's one of the number one things they need to make their attack. You may have just saved your life, and then he may go home that night. You may have saved somebody else's life also.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things a couple of things they look for.
Yep.
A lot of people are confused on what self-defense is, and a lot of times that just comes because they think learning self-defense is going and some karate guy in a black belt is going to throw you through a wall, and he's going to, teach you how to rip an eyeball out. And, it's going to be all this crazy stuff that you're going to learn. But self-defense is plain and simply being able to defend yourself. And, people don't keep it real nowadays. Mm-hmm. And that's why I say people try to pretend like we're not living in violent times, and we are.
Right.
Things get violent out there, and when it comes times and you end up in a situation like that, nobody's going to be able to save you but you. And just like we'll do a class, and I might say something like eye gouge, something like that. People say, "Oh, I don't want to do it to somebody." I say, "Okay, you're in the hallway of your home. Your kid's behind you, and this guy's there with a knife." And he said, "When you get done with you, he's going after your kid. Now, do you want to do it?"
Right, you have to give him a situation.
And then and it's like, "Oh, come on, I had to tell you that." Don't So if people keep it real, that you can have that moment someday where you may have to defend yourself, and everything in the world that you've ever gained, everything in the world that you've learned, everything in the world that you've done does not matter at that moment. Like I always talk about the moment. Prepare. That's what the whole idea of a martial art instructor is, to prepare his students for the moment. The moment is when it's up to you now. Now you have to, what physically and mentally, your life and everything you've gained and grown and created depends on what you're going to be able to do right now at this moment. Yep. Just like us fighters, when we go in and fight, that's the moment. But
so I have a question. So getting back to earlier, you're talking about people being paranoid. Is there anything that you can teach somebody once you're teaching them all these techniques and all these bad situations that they can get into? Is there some way you can teach them how not to get paranoid? Because being paranoid is something that's, it's going to probably go into someone's life when they learn self-defense. So especially if they live a easy life and nothing bad ever happens to them, and then you teach them that this can happen and something bad can happen. Is there anything that you can teach them how to not get paranoid? Or is that...
Well, let's first of all, I guess we'll have to define paranoid.
Yeah.
What is paranoid? When as a matter of fact, look it up for me. Look up paranoid on there.
Because I hear a lot of women say that they're afraid that they're going to live in fear.
Paranoid can be defined as fear. And like I say, when you're living in violent times, I think, saying not to be paranoid. There's an old military saying, I'd rather be paranoid and alive than comfortable and dead.
That's a good one. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there's truth to that.
That's true.
And they keeping it real. And like you're never going to find any ex-military person who doesn't have their house stockaded with guns and food and
Right.
water, you know what I'm saying? Because they know what's real.
Right.
You know, and most Americans, even people, I'm not even going to say America, most citizens of a country walk around in a false. They don't know what's going on. They don't know that we're at war right now.
Right.
They don't know that right now, our world leaders are trying to make decisions on whether we're going to get nuked tomorrow.
Right.
So we're just floating around through life.
So that's the answer. Keeping it real. If you keep it real, you probably won't get paranoid.
Right. And this is the thing. You don't have to live in fear. You just have to live in truth.
Okay.
And here's a definition of paranoid: a serious mental illness that causes you to falsely believe. So to be paranoid, it's got to not be real.
Okay.
All right. So you're not paranoid if it's real. People are really getting mugged. People are really getting assaulted. People are really getting robbed. People are really getting carjacked.
Which they see in the news every day. So it should be real to them.
And I think this is when it becomes paranoia, when you respond incorrectly. When you're walking down, leaving the baseball game, and somebody, comes up and say, "Hey, here's a flyer for," and you pull your CCW or open fire on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, oh man, I think he was going to carjack me. You know what I'm saying? Now you're being paranoid. Okay. So being aware and saying, okay, this could possibly happen. And he comes up, hand up the flyer, and I say, "Oh, thanks, stay away from me, please." And I take a step back, and I don't let him get close to me. And he stops and doesn't approach me. And, and I say, "I'm fine, I don't want the flyer." Okay, and he walks off. That's not being paranoid. Somebody says, "You're being so paranoid." No, I'm not. Because I don't know that he wasn't going to carjack me. I don't know that he wasn't going to stab me. But I'm going to keep my distance so I have response time. And that's not being paranoid. That's just being careful. Okay. That's being safe. So there's a difference between the two. And you're right. A lot of people, that's what they think. Well, I don't want to live my life paranoid, And it's like, okay, well, how are you living your life right now?
Yeah.
Just as a waiting victim,
yeah.
Waiting to be attacked. So
that makes sense.
In regards to, again, the self-defense, a lot of questions people ask is, when do I have the right to defend myself? We keep it plain and simple. Is when you
mean like legally? They want to know legally. Okay.
Legally, fight or flight is what I always tell them. If you feel like you have to fight or you want to run, then it's time for self-defense. There's really, I don't think, as long as you're not attacking someone, and the way self-defense works is when you feel that your life is threatened or somebody's trying to commit seriously bodily harm or death upon you, you have the right to use deadly force of any kind to protect yourself. And it is, a lot of it has to do with the environment you're in. You have to heighten your senses. If you're sitting at home and somebody breaks in your house, then it's probably time to go to deadly force. I wouldn't be asking questions. I wouldn't walk downstairs with things go clink clink and say, "Hey, what are you doing in here?"
Yeah.
And try to figure out if I should use self-defense. If I'm, walking, to my car in a dark parking structure, I'm the only one there, and I see somebody walking up towards me and there's no reason for this person to be approaching me, then I'm gonna set things up and test. Hey, how you doing? See how he's responding. He got his head down, looks like he's trying to be hit. Stay away from me. If I say stay away from me and he keeps approaching me and he gets closer with the hitting range, I got every right to unload on this dude and start hitting. You know what I'm saying? So the whole thing is, if I'm moving away, you want to always show in self-defense that you're trying to avoid the situation. Now, if I see this guy over here, let's say I'm walking out in this parking structure, and I see this guy in a coat and he looks suspicious, and I go approach him, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Right.
This and that, and then it turns out, we may have a concern there. There's going to be a lot of investigation to what happened. First of all, why did you approach him in the first place?
Right.
But then I can say, well, I was approaching to see what was going on. So even with self-defense, let's get back to just self-defense. If you feel afraid, feel like you have to run, fight or flight, of course you always want to try to get away first. And of course, if somebody's attacking you, that's self-defense. And you got every right to use whatever you have.
So you have to wait till they strike you before you feel that you can
you have
do something back?
You have what's called imminent assault. And if a person, threatens you, actually they verbally threaten you. Now, if somebody's across the parking structure, they say, "Hey, I'm going to kick your butt." And I can say, "What?" and run over to him and pull my gun and start John Wayneing on him. You know what I'm saying? But, if he's standing within 2 feet of me and say, "I'm going to kill you," and, bah, 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 I got every reason to unload on him to defend myself. Okay. So you still have what's called imminent assault. And I just think it's a lot simpler for the everyday citizen to be able to tell when you're about to be attacked than not. And then there's self-defense tools you can use too, like pepper spray is the best thing in the world, and we'll get into actually hand-to-hand physical after I talk about this. But pepper spray is one of the best things in the world because I've used it in bodyguard situations and in security situations, and it shuts everybody down.
Yeah.
You know, and I got into an argument with somebody on Facebook, and they were talking about pepper spray. I said, whatever, shut up, bullcrap. And they claiming they spray people in the Navy, and then people can fight through it. Now, you can teach people to fight through it. Like I can teach my bodyguards. I spray them and say, you have to fight through this or you can't be a bodyguard.
Right.
But an attacker is not that motivated.
Right.
You know, he wants he's going for the easy attack. So pepper spray is cool because it's not deadly force. I can spray 15 people at one time. You know, so you get attacked by a gang, you spray them all. And if your mom is standing in the crowd, she accidentally gets sprayed, you didn't blow her arm off.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there are still other options that can allow you almost to respond faster before you have to use self-defense. As a matter of fact, when I was certified to use pepper spray by a police officer who was an instructor, you know, with a leader, and he trained and certified me. And you know what he told me? He said, before you lay hands on anybody, even to restrain them, you pepper spray them. So he's like, you do it quick. Right. You know, don't worry about it because it's non-lethal. It ain't going to kill nobody. And it will stop an altercation from happening. Because if you lay hands on him and he fights back, you might, and he fall and hit his head on the bar thing. Now he's dead. Yeah. You know, where when you spray him, you're going to grab his eyes, fall on the ground, start crying, and then you can just escort him out. So that's how, you know, you got all these different options. Okay. So something like pepper spray allows you to, you know, defend yourself quickly.
Okay. Let's get back to, you said that self-defense is 99% awareness. Do you have any tips for for everyone about just some things that you can use your awareness on? Like what's some form of awareness that you can teach our viewers?
Definitely just paying attention to, number one, and I'll give you a good example. Whenever we do bodyguard or security work, the number one thing we do is control the area. Like, you know, people think bodyguards are always wanting to fight. And the number one thing a bodyguard doesn't want is an altercation. Yeah. Because when let's say I'm protecting, here's my client, I'm protecting my client, okay? And you go to attack and I start fighting you, my client's unprotected. That's the last thing I want to happen. Right. So the first thing we do is we seize control of the area. If I'm bringing Lil Jon or Lil Wayne or whoever, or Garth Brooks out, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to where we are going to be, and I'm going to get to know the area, and then I'm going to secure it the way I want it. So having said all of that, from a security point for self-defense, you should always know where you're going. That's number one. Where are you going? What are you subjecting yourself to? What kinds of things happens in this area? And of course, you can't always, do a recon and find out everything that's happening there. Okay. But you can always, as soon as you get out, just like when I pull into somewhere, first of all, I know where I'm parking, I'm looking, seeing what's happening. Everything looks safe. And then when I get out and it's like, I'm like the Terminator. I run that little scan, the numbers come up, no threat, potential threat, you know what I'm saying? Right. I see the potential threat. Let's say we're hanging out, going to a club, and I see a crowd right there. I'm paying attention to the movement. I'm looking at them. I see this drunk fool over here, and I see this dude looking tough. Guess what? We're not going to that alternate route. So let's go this way. So we go that way. So that's the first step in awareness, is pay attention to what you're subjecting yourself to. Don't walk into a possible situation. It's just like, even if I'm going to a nightclub to hang out, have some fun with friends. When I walk into somewhere, I do my scan and I see these clowns over here and they look like they're looking for trouble. Guess what? We're going somewhere else. Yeah. Why even come in there and take the chance on having to knock one of these fools out or getting hurt or hurt one of them? Now you got to deal with the law. You got to deal with police, all this kind of. So even in self-defense, why take the chance? And that's one of the things that people don't do, is they don't pay attention to the area that they're subjecting themselves to. Okay. So I would say that'd be definitely number one on awareness. Okay. And actually before that, preparedness comes before awareness, being ready. So I'm at home, and I'm always saying, I may have to defend myself today. What am I going to do? So
getting that mindset ready.
Yeah, having the mindset ready so you don't get that shock. If it happens, and that goes with, carrying pepper spray or, carrying a self-defense tool, or, if you're trained in martial arts, knowing which technique you're going to use, and that if something happens, you're going to have the spacing and you're going to be in the terrain you need to be in to use it. If you carry a CCW, making sure it's concealed properly and it's loaded and it's ready for you to, get to, and all that, all that kind of stuff. So that'll help you with a couple of tips on the awareness. Okay. Another good question I get asked is, what age should somebody start learning self-defense at? And that's a really powerful question, because kids are getting attacked, I say probably, 8, 9, 10 years old. what's that, about 4th, 5th grade. We
But
know that bullying starts
Attacked by adults or by kids their
by
age?
kids.
Okay.
Kids. Well, no, kids get kidnapped.
Yeah.
They get abducted.
I
So
wanna know which
that's a
one you're talking
serious
about.
attack there. So I was talking bullying.
Okay.
But when you ask that, and I always say this to parents, your kid, as far as self-defense, you can't be teaching a 5 and a 6-year-old palm strikes to the nose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because they really don't have enough
They won't
sense
know the
yet.
difference.
They don't know the difference. They're going to be using, hitting one of their buddies in preschool or
Right.
kindergarten with it, so they have to be really, really supervised if you're going to be giving them that type of training. Now, that doesn't mean they can't start some type of training that teaches the movements and start getting them ready to learn, self-defense as they get older.
Yeah.
But going back towards abduction resistance for kids, I always say if your kid's not big enough to fight a grown-up, they shouldn't be away from an adult,
Right.
at least not from ears and eyes, where they can't scream or yell or you can't see what's going on with them. I see a lot of times in neighborhoods, you see 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds running just riding. I mean, they can get abducted like that. There's nothing to stop somebody who wants to grab them from grabbing them, and that's how you have to think.
Yeah.
Now, as far as kids dealing with bullies are not playing nowadays. Back in the day, when it came to bullying, you got in a fight, got punched in the eye or something, and then you punched them back in the eye. Next thing you know, you were best friends.
Right.
Now these bullies are jumping kids, 5, 10 at a time. They just had, I can't remember what school it was, but they had, I showed you it on the article, where 20 kids jumped one kid because she was smart.
Oh, yeah.
And they beat her up. And then the parents came up and they told the kid, we'll beat your parents up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how serious it's getting right now. So what do you do with it? They're making it where it's a punishment to be a good kid.
Yeah.
So these kids have to know how to fight back.
Yeah.
They have to know how to defend themselves, because this is not something like I said, even with with my daughter, and I taught her how to defend herself. I can only be there for her for so much.
Right.
Even if I throw her in the truck and pull up in the beat down truck and get out and say, I'm her dad. You know what? That's going to get her jump more. Of course ain't nobody going to do or say nothing there. But then they're going to say, oh, you're big muscle bound monkey looking dad going to beat me up, and then it turns into that. So kids are always going to find a way to flip it.
Yeah.
So they have to be ready to stand up for themselves alone.
Yeah.
In a secluded area, because they're going to get caught, and I know, because I used to deal with bullies all the time, and I had to fight them 2 and 3 at a time, but I was good in martial arts, so I always won, but they didn't come at me, in the front of the school teacher or the principal.
Yeah.
It was on the way home when there was nobody there. As a matter of fact, that's one reason I was kicked out of junior high school for carrying nunchucks to school, because I was actually fighting a gang. Because they said, you don't join our gang, we're going to kick your butt every day. I said, I'm good. Let's fight.
Yeah.
I'm not joining your gang. I'm not a gang member. But that meant I had to, respond violently, because they didn't catch. They called me when nobody was there.
Yeah.
And that's when I was going to have to defend myself. So
when they suspended you for having them, did they know your reasoning behind it?
they actually did. We actually went before the board and everything, and we told them they actually knew the gangs existed and everything. But in the school's defense, they can't say it's okay to bring a weapon to school.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was nunchucks. To me, it wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a knife or a gun.
Right.
They were hanging out my coat pocket in a Saturday detention. So it was Saturday for one.
Right.
Which that's the worst time to have to ride your bike through the gang's neighborhood, because they all out there with their uncles and everybody. There he is, y'all. That's the one think he cooler than us. He think he better than us. And I'm just riding my bike like, all right, anytime y'all ready, let's go. And I was scared, but I had to do what I had to do to defend myself. And telling mommy wasn't gonna cut it.
Yeah.
Telling the principal and telling that wasn't gonna do it. And I can't stop that in the neighborhood. So kids still need to know how to defend themselves. I say, by 4th, 5th, 6th grade is a good time to get them started and learning from a good instructor. And and learning, make sure they know the disciplines, make sure they understand self-control, make sure they understand, number one, that you don't want to get in a fight. That's the whole thing. This is not about, teaching kids to retaliate.
Yeah.
Or to get into fights, or to say, bring it on, I'm ready, because nowadays nobody wins a street fight.
Yeah.
Nowadays you beat somebody up and they're gonna come back with a weapon. Now everybody loses. So just having them where they're trying to avoid the fight, but they have the confidence in the back of their head to know, I can defend myself if I want to. And that's one of the things too. A lot of times you can look somebody in the eye and tell not to mess with them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even just because of the confidence, not even because they may not even be able to fight, but looking a person in the eye and seeing that confidence. And we do that all the time with the kids that I train. My daughter she's been like that the whole time she's been coming up. She talks to me about bullying situations, dealing with people, and I just say, this is what you do. Look them in the eye and say this. This is what I want you to do. The one who's leading the way, you catch her by herself. All right, when she's alone, and say, hey, Could you want to talk to me about that right now while nobody else is around? We can talk about it. Let's discuss it. I say, don't talk smack. Don't say, I'll whoop you.
Right.
I say, just say, let's discuss it. I say, look her dead in her eye. Do not take your eyes off of her. And don't be mad. Look at her calmly. And it puts them all in shakes. And it shuts the problem down.
Yeah. So with kids, it's more about the way they carry themselves even than awareness, because awareness might be a little too deep for kids. So do you teach kids it is more about the way you carry yourself and the way you treat people, even more than what to look out for?
Well, even with adults, awareness, like I said, might be more complicated, but a kid shouldn't get subjected to too many areas where they can get attacked.
Right.
Apparently, they should be in some kind of adult supervision.
Yeah, but not at school.
Well, you still got your principals and your teachers there, but if we're talking because I keep getting mixed up abduction and bullying. If we're talking bullying, it's the way they carry themselves, and when bullies don't want to deal with somebody who's got confidence, because a bully usually is not into it for a fair fight.
Right.
It's the same thing. They're looking for somebody they can, make bow down to them and make them look more powerful. So when you appear to have confidence, and when the kids coming up, just like our kids, when they coming up to the school, and they know every Saturday, the master chief is going to put them through these crazy calisthenics. Then they got to put the gloves on and spar and defend themselves. And they know how to fight. They've got a look in their eyes that when they make that look at that bully's going to say, he's not afraid of me. Okay. And that's where most bullying is about, is trying to make somebody afraid of you.
Right. Just
like even on the streets, when an attacker wants to attack somebody, he's looking for somebody that's going to be afraid of them. When you don't show fear, then that's a possible fight. And that's not what they want.
Gotcha.
So, and as far as abduction goes, which is different for kids, then that's definitely just, the parents' job of knowing what area they putting them in. Just like, for instance, with my daughter, I'm always use her as an example as a kid. When she started going to the mall, and she told me one time about a situation, and she said she went to the bathroom, and this weird man followed her to the bathroom, and he didn't know her mom was there, but her mom was in the area watching our daughter. And she went to the bathroom. She said when she came out, the weird man was still standing there looking at her. And then her mom came up, and said something to the dude or whatever, and the dude walked off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think she's only 12 years old at that time. But what if she'd been there by herself? Like a lot of adults dropped their kids off, go have fun, and then bail. But the mall is a place where kids come up missing from a lot. Get attacked, especially at the bathroom. Think about where the bathroom is at in the mall. It's way back in the hallway, secluded somewhere. When I go to the bathroom in the mall, I'm making a fist because I'm like, man, somebody can get me in there. Hoping ain't nobody looking for me, because you can even help. And it's like this long hallway usually where nobody can help, just like bathrooms and stadiums and places like that. All these secluded areas. So it's knowing what you subjected your kid to, the area where you sending your kid. Right. And that's an awareness for kids as far as self-defense that the parents can use.
Well, and that's probably why it's good that actually it starts at a young age, because I think at a young age, kids, their intuition is still really strong. And I think that a lot of them still ride off their intuition, which has a lot to go with their awareness too, I think.
Well, and they're taught to.
Yeah.
How many of them carry video games and cell phones, and, and they put more attention and more time into, these little things, or into, having fun with their buddies and, stuff like that, than paying attention. A lot of times it's just a simple conversation with a kid, letting them know. And that's what, with my daughter, I just, taught her before, you got to pay attention to what's going on around you, man. You can never, ever let anybody grab you, because they grab you. I can't help you. There's nothing I can do. So you pay attention and you fight to the death, if somebody does try to. And that was in her head when she noticed this weird dude, there was this weird guy following me. Right. So that's kind of stuff to keep in mind. Another good deal with self-defense is choosing a trainer. Choosing the right self-defense trainer, it can be hard. I always tell everybody, anything's better than nothing. Right. Any martial art, boxing, anything, even cardio kickboxing, which is not self-defense. Right. But it's better to learn that and maybe throw a 1, 2, 3 to the beat and hit somebody and break their nose and run away than to do nothing. Right. But choosing a good trainer, if you want a good trainer that fits you, first you got to, the trainer's got to have, I always say he's got to have combat credentials. And I define combat credentials as, a fight career, active police officer, military, somebody who's had to apply their self-defense, because as just like we do with our kids, everybody's learning these cool moves and punching and hitting pads, and they think they're cool, and then I say, all right, put the headgear on. Now everybody's swinging wild and all over the place. Everybody's crying because they got bop one, and it's like, that's the reality. You have to be able to apply this stuff. You know why your punch didn't work? Because your feet you got no balance. It can work when nobody's pushing on you.
Yeah.
But now that you got pressure in front of you, getting bumped, now you're falling all over the place. That's because I told you don't cross your legs. But you can hit the pads and cross your legs and nothing happens. And then you look cool to everybody, So having an instructor who has a strong combat background, first of all, is the most important. And you have to research that, not by just looking at his website. Because you put anything you want on your website or his Facebook page or her, it could be her too. There's some bad women out there, but researching and going to Google and Yahoo and seeing what you can find about them that other things other people are saying. If they're, a fighter, somebody who's fought, professionally or amateur, then there should be literature about them, from not just from their hometown, but from all over the world, of people speaking about them, things they've accomplished, because the main thing is, even with applying, you have to, the instructor has to try and apply it in different situations against different types of people to get an understanding of what everybody will need. It's just like when I teach self-defense, what you may need for self-defense may differ from what somebody else of a different body size, may need, a different aggressiveness level may need, somebody who's in different type of shape, somebody who's in different types of situation. Like what I teach the real estate agents is different than what I teach an everyday person walking the street, because real estate agents are in a position where they're always secluded and alone. So they need to be super secret agents. They really need to know how to tear somebody up quick at close range. I teach self-defense for everyday people about distance, spacing. That's one thing I say. You have to have spacing. Keep your distance. Don't let somebody get close to you. You let them get close to you, you killing your response time.
Right.
But real estate agents, it's your job to be close to them.
Right. In
this secluded place. You know what I'm saying? So they really have to be. So it differs. So you find somebody who's got good credentials that can prove that they've actually used it, and then from there you have to, and then I'll even say this, it still becomes kind of difficult. You almost have to keep, if you're trying to find a good self-defense instructor, you even have to keep researching what they're teaching you and how they think. Right. Because as you remember, one time you and I had a conversation about a CCW, and we had a military person in the room, and then we had an old schooler in the room. And the first thing they're thinking, big gun, for a girl, big gun. They need it, And then the other one said, no, a 22, you could kill somebody. That's the best killer in the world. And I'm saying, dude, look, no, not for self-defense, And of course, the military person, they carry a gun all the time, and they, wear a vest and all. So they don't mind the discomfort. I say the first thing, if the gun is too big, they're not going to carry it. Right. You're going to carry it the first couple of weeks because it's cool to have a gun. But when you go into, I'm just going to the store, I don't want to haul that big old thing, so now you're leaving it at home. So I said, you have to have something you're comfortable carrying all the time. What about when you go running, in the summertime, and you got a small sports bra on and some shorts? Right. You need something that's going to fit there. Right. Plus you don't need 19 rounds, for self-defense. You're not, this is not a war. You need to, when you fire that one shot, that's probably going to scare him off. If not, if you don't get him in 3 to 5 shots, then what are you doing? You shooting in the wrong direction, or he ain't close to you anyway. Where's self-defense? Right. So all of those, then talking to the old schooler, saying, she's not trying to murder somebody. Right. That's not the key. I know a 22 is the deadliest round. Right. You put it in somebody's head, that's the best, because it shatters everything else. But that's not what this is about. A 22, you can shoot somebody with it, and this happened to people many times. You can shoot them 3-4 times, and they don't drop. They don't even know they're shot. Yeah, they die later from getting poisoned by the lead, but right there, you're still getting attacked. So you need something that's going to have knockdown power, that's easy to carry. So through that conversation, of all these different experts in the room, I know this as a self-defense person because I've been an expert on self-defense for so many years. And the number one thing that I've learned out of training people, when it comes to even pepper spray and stuff, the first thing everybody want to do with pepper spray is buy the big fire hose canister that stands, 6 feet tall. Oh, and it'll gas a whole, it'll shut down an army. That's what you see the cops use when they hit right, and it'll shut them down. And that's the best thing to have if you can use. But are you going to carry that when you're in your dress and high heels? Right. You know what I'm saying? So now we got to get all the way down to the little keychain, pepper spray thing, but that doesn't have as much hitting power and stuff like that. So that's the first thing I learned, was that you got to have something that, one, you can carry, and 2, you can get to, that you can access, and 3, that's going to be effective at the same time. So when you find a self-defense instructor, you got to make sure that what he's teaching you is something you can use. Right. Just because I was a world-class MMA fighter, I understand combat. But MMA fighting may not be good for a 60-year-old woman.
Right.
You know, throwing jabs and crosses and elbows
Right.
and knees. And, you know what I'm saying? She needs palm strikes, eye flicks. That comes from karate. And that's something we can't even use in MMA fighting. You know, but still I understand what it takes to stop an attacking human being. And that's where my fighting background comes from. So when I see, you know, a bunch of, techniques that a lot of self-defense instructors show, like I was looking at YouTube the other day, and it was some escape stuff for kids. And this lady was showing these things, you know, she was a big woman. She was showing it to these little kids. And I was like, and she would grab the kid, you know, softly, because it's a little kid, and say, go ahead and do it. And the kid would do the move, and she'd let go. I said, dude, that's not how a kid gets grabbed when they're getting kidnapped.
Pressure,
there's no pressure. That is not going to work.
Yeah.
That kid needs to elbow you in the groin, headbutt you in the groin. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They got to hit you to make you, let go.
Right.
And that's where it comes from. So even though they got background with certain things, just like I was saying with even like police officers, a lot of people want to learn from police officers. A lot of stuff police officers learn, especially when it comes to pressure points, you know, PPPT, things like that, is to be used on somebody who's not resisting.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Are you under arrest? I don't want to go. I said, you know, and I put you in a wrist like, all right. I'm in. And then they'll start showing that here, this is something you can use. And yeah, it does work on somebody who's not trying to knock your head off.
Right.
You know, so it's really, you got to really research it.
Okay.
You know, so it's saying that you have to research the person and read their personality. I always say study their character. Is this a self-defense instructor who's cocky and arrogant about what they know, and all they're trying to do is push their views on you? Or are they really trying to research you and help you find what's going to work for you?
Right.
Because different, like I said, different arts may work for different types of people. Different techniques may work for different types of people. You know, when we teach self-defense, you see we show a lot of different things. What always happens, you know, you have this girl who the whole beginning of the class, she seemed like the quietest, shyest person in the world. And then we get to elbows. Bow, boom, she's turning it up. I'm like, that's your technique.
Right.
You know, but this girl over here, the eye flick, whoo, that's hers. She's quick and she's moving her finger, but she don't have all that power. Hey, that eye flick is what you need to use.
Right.
So when you find a good instructor, it's got to be an instructor who's not just coming to tell you what to do, but trying to find where it works for you.
You can read them.
Yeah, they're researching and studying you.
Now I have a question. You can teach someone technique and, you know, how to train all day long, but when I get in that situation and I have to apply my technique, but I'm in complete shock, can you teach someone how to fight through that shock, or do you not know how to, or do you not know what their mindset's going to be when they get in that situation?
That's a really, really good question. A good self-defense instructor, what it leads up to, because the more you train, the better you're going to get, is you have to deal with being under pressure.
Okay.
You have to deal with shock. You have to deal with fear. And that's where it comes, you know, what happens a lot with the martial arts now, where I talked about it being watered down. So to make money, just for the school to survive, is in a martial arts school should be scary. When you go to train, you should be a little bit afraid. Mm-hmm. You should be nervous of what the sensei is going to do to you today. And that's what happens. It's his job to recreate the emotions that you'll feel in that type of situation by scaring you, you know, yelling at you, Jordan, what are you doing? You're doing it wrong. Boom, putting it where you, oh my God, I said get up and do it. You know, where you in this, it puts you in that zone that you're going to be in when you get attacked.
Okay.
But now you're responding. You know, and then what it does is stores that in your subconscious. And then when that happens in the alley, hey, you give me your money. Next thing you know, you just drop. You're like, whoa, I've done this 1,000 times.
Okay.
You know, that's stored in my mental.
Okay.
So, and that's a hard area because, like I said, you know, when the sensei starts abusing people in his class, he loses students.
Right.
You know, it's like the whole thing of, like I said, I got an old saying, the best martial art instructors in the world or in America would get kicked out of the country for abuse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's for real. To have a good instructor, he's got to push you to that limit.
Right.
And most people, you know, especially citizens, don't want to be pushed to that limit. That's not what they're coming to pay for.
Right.
They're coming to pay to feel good, to leave class feeling good about themselves, and they're confused with what he's trying to do to them. So it takes a good student for you to be able to put them through that kind of pressure. And then that's what they're helping them be ready to respond.
Okay. So that's what frustration day is.
Yep. We do that with the kids.
Okay.
We have the frustration day, and, you know, we let the parents know, hey, your kid is going to hate today.
Yeah.
He may not want to come back, but you got to bring him back. And we get on and this and that. But remember, we had the one kid that was a real softie who was getting bullied, all this stuff.
It crossed him over.
And I was on him, and I looked at him, I said, I'm getting him today. I
Yeah.
said, he's going to cry today. And we went over there, and I brought the other instructor with me. I said, let's get him. And we were just on him and making him do punches, drive him, and then you just seeing him go. It was like a just came over the class, and that calmness hit his face, and I was like, he's there.
Yeah, he crossed
and
over.
we really kicked it in gear. And you couldn't touch him.
Yeah.
We could not make him move. We could not make it. And that's been there since that day.
Yeah.
Remember, he shut down those bullies in school
he
who
did
were
in
picking
school.
on a girl.
Yeah.
Picking on a girl. He didn't shut him down by beating him up. He went up to him and said, hey, guys, why you guys messing with her, man?
Yeah.
You know, it's not her fault that she has talk like that's not cool.
Yep.
And the bullies were like, oh. You know what I'm saying? So but that's because he was calm and cool. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't afraid. And that's where we talk about how that kind of training helps.
That makes sense.
But I want to get to 3 takeaways that everybody can use, to help, get you on the idea of self-defense. Number 1, here's something you can start doing is look for weird things, weird people, and weird cars. I want you, when you're driving around, whenever you go somewhere, I want you to look. You are now the Terminator. Scan, and look for people who you think could potentially try something. Cars that look like they're parked in a weird spot and don't belong there. Just looking and boosting that awareness. This is a game for you. It's going to be fun for you. Just pretend like you're a robot, and that's what you're looking for.
Are you trying to get them to pay attention to their behavior, or you just want them to look for them?
Oh, pay attention to that person's behavior, whatever they find. Yeah, anything they find that's weird.
Okay.
We're not even going to take it a step farther than that. I just want them to start seeing and being able to see about the area that they subject themselves to.
Okay.
That before you pull up, before you get out, you're just doing a scan and looking and watch how much weird stuff you're going to see that you're going to be like, man, I wonder if. Now, don't go and start beating people up and, like I said, running over to people and dropping elbows on them and stuff like that. I just want you to do the scan.
Start opening it.
All right. The next thing is if you go out to eat, you go to hang out, wherever you go, the first thing you do when you walk in is find escape routes. Look and say, okay, I just walked in this door. What if something happens at this door and I have to get out?
Okay.
How can I get out of here? What's the safest route? Plan a way that you can escape if you need to. And then the third thing I want you to do is size people up. That's something that people don't do. Everybody you meet, I want you to look at that person and say, if this person attacked me, how could I beat them? What would I do? What would I use to defeat this person that's standing in front of me?
Right.
And that, you don't have to treat them differently. I just want you to think about this type of thing. Yeah, definitely don't underestimate them. And it's going to make it real to you because you're going to look at that person, like somebody, like you look at me and say, what would I do to defeat this guy?
Right.
What could really hurt him? A poke in the eye would hurt me. Nobody can take a poke in the eye, no matter how big their muscles are. A hit in the groin could hurt me. So just looking at a person, everybody you meet, and saying, well, what if this guy decided to attack me, or this girl decided to attack me? What do I think I can do to hurt them? And I think those would be some good takeaways that people could use. So, all right. Well, I want to thank everybody for listening. It's Jermaine Andre here with my co-host, Rebecca Beck. And we just covered a bunch of stuff on self-defense that I hope can help you out. Like I said, we're here to give you the information and bring you the truth and things that can help you in your fight for your life in LifeFight. All right, thank you, and see you next time.
Bye.
For all things Jermaine Andre, get books, get trained. Learn the secrets behind his brawn, his brain, and his edge. Visit JermaineAndre.com. Life Fight with Jermaine Andre is another positive production of RareGem Productions. Thanks for listening.